All right, Ian. So
What's up? What's going on,
Red
buddy?
Dead Redemption 2 is coming out, and there's an article that came out that you wanted to lead the way on here about independent games. We're told they won't get it until November. So was that like a week and a half after it comes out everywhere else? October 26th, it comes out in a few days.
About a week. So originally, when I saw the headline of the article before reading it,
For weeding it?
Shut up.
I said weeding it.
Hello. Independent game shops told they won't get Red Dead Redemption till November. Didn't like that headline much, and I normally very much like this writer's writing, but independent game shops told they won't get Red Dead Redemption until November 2nd. First, I thought that was like a blanket statement. You will be getting this by our decree. You will be getting this game
From up high, Rockstar.
We have decided that you will not be getting this game until 1 week after the release date because this is a policy now. I mean, am I wrong? Does that seem like the...
From the headline, yes. That's
Okay.
what it seems like.
That's what it seems like. Okay, that's not it.
Independent game shops told they won't get Red Dead Redemption 2 until November.
That's not it. When you read into the article a little bit, it says that basically they're being told that because of how it's being shipped and all that, that there will likely be a delay on their copies coming in. This sucks. This does suck. And that's awful, and I'm going to get into why. At Luna Video Games, we used to get in new copies of new games, okay? We would take pre-orders. We would call up our distributors. We would order in basically just enough for what we had for pre-orders and then maybe, a few extra copies. As time went on, we would order less and less, basically with as digital became a more viable option, especially on the West Coast. On the West Coast with like PlayStation and Xbox One or an Xbox, you can do your pre-orders and they will actually come out at 9 p.m. the day before because it launches at midnight on the East Coast. So a lot of people would do the digital if they really wanted it. They'd get it 3 hours early. They wouldn't have to wait in line at a midnight launch. There was no reason to wait for Luna to get their copies at noon the next day. Okay?
Sure.
So we started to see less and less need to pre-order in these new copies. So then, I think probably because of street dates and things like that, instead of getting games in like 2 days early or a day early, we started getting them like online at like noon or 1 the day of release. This made people who wanted to play games very antsy. Some people would start to cancel pre-orders. They would literally not want to wait the extra 2 hours. They might have taken the day off. They would cancel their pre-order. They would go get it at GameStop or something like that. If we didn't have it at, open, if we're like, well, our UPS truck is getting here at 2. That's, they would cancel the pre-order. So eventually the games would start coming a day, 2 days late.
Sure.
This is 3-4 days ago. Or 3-4 years ago. And it just started happening all the time. And I know that, we would find new distributors that would be able to get us our games on time. But the only way to really guarantee that was to order a ton of copies of them.
Sure.
And then you would have to really put in an advertising blitz to get all these copies sold. And you'd start finding that your take from getting these games wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth all of this hassle. So years ago, Luna just said, screw it. We're not ordering in this new shit anymore. And I think a lot of independent stores back then realized, well, this is where we have to decide. Are we going to put the effort into selling these new games, or are we just going to wait for the used copies to come in a week or two later? Because they really do. So we get to this.
Let's be clear here. This isn't Rockstar controlling their supply.
Exactly.
It's a regional suppliers, right?
This is regional supply. Well, it's how Rockstar ships them out, but Rockstar's not telling companies that Rockstar's not telling independent game stores that you have to wait 1 week because of a special thing that we're doing. This is just regional distributors and things like that and how the industry works. Now independent game
And
stores just don't get anything on time.
So, and that's just because obviously the first stock's going to go to the biggest customers, Walmart, big box stores. They're going to go to GameStop to make sure they get their stuff on time. So either there's not enough stock to go around, or just isn't time to deliver to all the independent little shops outside of the big main shops.
And it sucks. It sucks. It's awful. But this is something that is known and has been known for a while. So I take some issue with some things in this article.
Okay.
And it's not really what's written, it's what this guy says, because it's...
Someone interviewed, you mean?
Yeah, the person was interviewed, because it's... I feel like this article is a bit sensationalist, and it was done... it was done around Red... So, okay. This gentleman says he spent over $3,300 adorning a small local chain of Pennsylvania video game stores with billboards, flyers, posters, and other displays. In another article, I'm pretty sure it was just $3,300 for the billboard alone. Anticipating the Western adventure game, Rockstar pre-ordering 2 years ago. His customers began pre-ordering 2 years ago. And he started spending all this money on it. Okay, 2 years ago should have been, long enough ago to know that, that's risky. That's just a business risk. This is a business, that's a business risk that we are taking in this day and age. I'm not trying to sound like...
on an item that the margin isn't that big for what you talked about with me, right?
Yes, exactly. It's not big at all.
Like a few dollars per game?
Anywhere from 3 to 6, 3 to 8, depending on the game. Okay, so we'll get to that.
Gotta do some Ian math on this.
So we're doing 3,300 on that. And down here he says that, so between his 4 stores, he predicts his customers would have purchased more than 1,000 copies, he said.
Okay.
So 60 times 1,000, $60,000 in lost sales is what he's saying.
Well, but that's gross sales.
But that's not right. So if he's going to make, let's say, $5 per sale, $5,000 per sale, he's only making $1,500 in profit on a 2-year long gamble.
So, okay, let's back up. We'll just say he sells it for $60.
He spent $3,500 on advertising.
Okay.
He has to put in about $55,000 to buy the games.
We'll just start at the profit per game. We'll just say it's $5 per game, which could be high.
It's $5. Let's just say it's $5 per game.
He sells 1,000 copies. You start at $5,000, right? You're not taking into account the $3,500 for the sign, right?
Start at $5,000. Start at $5,000 profit. Subtract $3,500. Best case, average.
And then you put in what else do you got to put in there? Any other overhead that might be involved in this venture over the years?
You're making $1,500
at most.
Yeah, at most
for a 2-year gamble. That's awful business practice. It's terrible.
So, I know the big businesses are not small businesses' best friends, but that's
you're just saying be smarter about.
I'm just saying be smart.
Yeah.
I wish we tried forever to try to find a good way to work with distributors to get a reasonable amount of new copies of games to work with our customer base. I know some independent video game stores do it because they have a larger base for newer games. Our customer base is almost entirely, they buy the newer games, but they want them used. Our big spenders buy the retro stuff. That's just, it's a problem worth complaining about and addressing. But this is not the way.
I'll tell you why.
I'm sorry, I don't feel so bad about this.
The author is Cecilia D'Anastasio. I'll tell you why she did a bad job here. Because the people, what's that?
I said, whoa, okay.
This is why it's a bad job. This is why it's more sensational than it should be. Because when you print something that says, a guy says $60,000 in lost sales, the author has to try to follow up and say,
exactly.
What does that actually mean? And the author has to then clarify that that's gross sales and not profit.
No, that's true.
Because when that goes unchecked, people in the comments are like, this guy's getting fucked out of $60,000. No, he's not. He's getting fucked out of a few $1,000s at most.
Right.
And most game shops wouldn't sell 1,000. Like if Luna sells 50 or 100, something like that.
We would order in like 30.
So you lost $150 of profit. You didn't lose $1,800.
Yes, exactly.
So that's why it's a bad article. Sorry, Cecilia.
No, I mean,
you have to be better about that, because people in the comments are like, this is bullshit. This is fucked up.
But you're absolutely right. Yeah. That is where it came through. Like it had to be. this entire rant is unchecked.
Yeah, we're not saying this is a good thing that these stores don't get on time, but it's just the reality of the situation. It's been like this forever.
It's been like this forever, and this has been a problem forever, and it's weird that it's just being blown up now with this, and really it just reads like someone who's sour about something that happens in business all the time that we've all had to deal with, and it was a bad gamble.
What do you think about this quote from Daniel Maston, who runs Video Games in New York, who I've met at conventions? Said there might be some fear around local stores breaking street date. They want a distribution chain they control, Maston theorized. Do you think there's anything to that? You think some?
I do.
You think there's some stores that have screwed over everyone else?
Absolutely, I do. I think there's some stores that have. I don't, and I'm not saying this with a wink and a nudge. I do not know the stores that do it in LA, but I know that there are stores in LA that do it, and it had. Because of, I mean, the closeness on the coast. So, I mean, people could get games pretty early in LA, and it did. I mean, that sort of thing has ruined shit for people.
Because then GameStop will say, what the fuck, get them in line? Because now they're hurting our sales and we're the big dogs. And so they'll say, okay, well, then they ruined it for all these smaller mom and pop shops.
That sort of stuff does ruin it. Breaking street date does have a fucking price to pay.
Yes.
And over the years, especially with, advanced piracy and digital distribution and uploads and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've worked at Luna for, like I said, 12 years now. And I remember we used to be able to get games in. We'd have the box sitting, there for 3-4 days sometimes. And, we stopped because we'd start getting our boxes 2 days late because they wouldn't ship them out sometimes until day of.
Here's the good news, everyone. In 10 years, everyone will be buying these games digitally anyway. So, these gigantic games. What was it I hear now? You can pre-install the game even before, and then the day comes out. You don't have to wait like the hour to install it or 2 hours.
Yeah,
you just get the code.
It'll download most of it, and then it'll download the final chunk, the final 500 megabytes a patch, and then unlock it. I've done it before.
And there you go.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. GameStop won't be able to sell these in the future much longer either. It's just the reality of the situation. So, we might be covering this topic somewhat in a little documentary coming out next year. So that's it. So so it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not good, but it's also not putting these mom and pops out of business because they have been profiting off this for a while anyway.
I was going to say, that's the thing. This is nothing new. If this was going to put mom and pops out of business, it would have done it 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Sure.
You just have to evolve your business.